Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Ask the Collective. My name is Rich Brubaker, and I'm the founder of Collective Responsibility, and it's a pleasure having you join us as we answer questions about corporate responsibility, sustainability, and innovation in Asia. I was recently asked by a viewer about the recent plastic ban in China, what other regulations are coming, and what else can we do besides Sunday volunteering to do something more sustainable about plastic and plastic in our oceans. So as many of you know, on January 1 of this year, China banned 24 different types of plastic and packaging from coming into the country from overseas. Behind this regulation, there are kind of two factors at play that we looked at. The first one was that it's actually not actually a ban. It's more of increasing the standard from a 1% impurity to a 0.5% impurity. And for many cities, this is just an impossible or a very difficult thing to reach underneath the current process or economically. And so in the end, a lot of cities, with the exception of maybe San Francisco and a few others, have been able to maintain the connection between their city's municipal program and China. The second one is that China's own waste streams have grown exponentially over the last few years, driven by their own urban consumers. You have platforms like Alibaba that are putting out 1 billion packages on a single day of sales. You have tens of millions of deliveries happening every single day. They're coming plastic boxes instead of plastic bags, which have disposable chopsticks, spoons, forks, knives, the whole deal. And because of the exponential growth of both of those industries, the cities have really started to realize that their systems are not set up for this. And it's a challenge for China that is recognized as a real priority, and not only resulted in the January 1 ban, but it's also been behind a number of other waste regulations, including the food packaging waste regulation, which just came out in Shanghai. Following on that thought, and in answering the second part of the question about regulation in China, what's coming up and what defines a successful regulation, there's honestly too many regulations to be spoken through in this format, but there was two that I want to kind of pick out. And the first one is one I just made reference to, which is the food packaging laws that have just come out in Shanghai. This is something that kind of popped out of nowhere for many, and over the last 18 months we've gone from a few delivery companies to now tens of millions of food deliveries taking place every single day. And so at the fundamental basis, the idea was to move it away from plastic and put it into paper and other recyclables. There's a lot left to be desired about this first draft of the regulation, and particularly because the paper being used is actually one that has a thermal layer already attached to it, which doesn't mean it's not recyclable, but in China right now, it's not recycled because the economics of extracting and pulling out the reusable materials and putting them back into the process, it's too expensive. So most of it is actually just either thrown away into a landfill or burned. The second regulation worth noting basically is about EV batteries, or electronic vehicle batteries. Now, we did a piece of research earlier this year around solar panel waste, and when we were talking about e-waste in general, no one was really talking about batteries or e-waste regulations changing. And over the course of the time of that project, which is about 12 months in total, it went from very little discussion to a brand new set of guidelines about EV battery recycling, because the scale of EV car sales has just been exponential, which means the batteries coming out of it are equally exponential. So what we've seen is already kind of producer pay principles coming in, but we're also seeing on the incentive side, a number of the stronger e-waste recyclers that are already in town are being given certifications, assurances, and the incentives to build capacity to become the lead kind of providers or recyclers to these EV batteries. So the government is acting really quickly in both cases, be it food packaging or in e-waste. And that for me is actually what's happening in general. To answer the second part of this question is, there's a lot of things happening. They're happening very quickly and being driven largely by the government, but also in many cases to the benefit of business. And this leads me to the third question, which is how can we move beyond Sunday volunteering to something more sustainable? And the answer is really simple: when it pays to. And that to effectively support the collection, sorting, and redeployment of waste is only going to come when the value of those waste is known in such a way that the waste is seen as a resource to the economy itself, be it the manufacturers or the government who wants to reprocess it. Which for us is where in China, it's not only the country whose challenge we need to understand at the deepest levels and address, but also it's the country whose solutions will ultimately be scaled. And we've seen, honestly, I mean, this is a topic that can get very down very quickly when you see the images of animals with plastic in their bellies, or you see someone diving through a beautiful, pristine coral reef and it's just plastic everywhere. But the reality is that there are so many stories that we're seeing here locally of individuals, small enterprises, and government agencies that are seeing this challenge not as something to complain about, point fingers about, and walk away from, but to take on, innovate through, and drive the scale. And so for us, that's really the message that we want to take home and which we want to drive through to you, which is that for this problem of plastic, the regulations that are coming through, these are natural. But what's more important is to actually view these materials ultimately as resources that should be put back into the economy to properly value and remove waste because it's a resource. So with that, I really hope that you've enjoyed today's episode. I hope that you found it engaging, but also informational, and maybe this is something that you can take into your business, into your product, or maybe will help you jump into another light of seeing that it doesn't just matter about who's cleaning up the beaches or what the problems are, but really who's innovating through these challenges and what the opportunity is to learn from China and to scale up the solutions that we're finding here. So thank you very much. Hope you all have a great week, and remember, if you like this, please remember to like, share, and comment.